All right. Let's see if you guys can hear me all right. Looks like you can. See if you guys can see me all right. Looks like you can see me as well. Good. Well, I'm not on that screen yet, but you guys should be able to see me here in a second. I'm hoping. Seems like Twitch is not playing nice yet. There we go. Well, maybe. Let's see. All right, let's go pop over here to our streaming. Maybe this will pop up right there over on the Twitch side of things. We'll see here. I'm still not seeing myself on Twitch, so that's not great. I see myself just fine on YouTube though, so we'll give this one more restart and see if it comes up on the Twitch side. Yeah, that's super weird. Let me know if you guys can see me over there on Twitch, because I'm not seeing myself on the preview live. Everything else looks right though. Okay, but aside from that, you can see me, Zorgle. Okay, well, because like my preview is just a black screen on that side. So, all right. So what are we doing today? I've been kind of taking some time off, but I've decided I'm going to try to be a little more normal about my streaming. So I put up a new schedule for everybody, which will be in about 30 minutes or so is typically when I'll start. But I just figured I'd hop on now because the wife's out of town. She's actually flying back tomorrow. She went to Pennsylvania with one of her friends to see, what's his name, like Puxatawny Phil or whatever, the groundhog. You know, that's like the silliest thing ever. But the wife's friend wanted to do it, so she told her she'd go with her, and she did it. So if you guys don't know what that is, it's this silly little tradition here in America. Just look up Groundhog Day. All right, so what are we working on here then? Well, we can work on a lot of stuff today, but the bare minimum I wanted to do was get some stuff done around the automation course, get some of the stuff that I kind of owe you guys back working. I have some stuff and I want to do that because I want to get to some of the new course stuff. And this is funny, I'm always wanting to work on the next course, but I can't do it until I'm done with the one that I'm on. So that's kind of where I'm at. You have a software engineering interview tomorrow, but I'm in a period of my life with very low self-esteem. You can do it, Tim. You're going to be fine. All you got to do is just remember for software, depending on what level it is, just remember your algorithms. Remember your architecture, design, whatever. I mean, I don't know what level you're going for, and I'm not a software engineer. I just know what the guys look for. I've been hanging out in one of my buddies' channel. Actually, Tim, the best place to go is drop my stream and go over to Midnight Simon right now. I know he's streaming. That's all he does is algorithms, and he was over at Google for, I think he's been at Google for like the last 4 years, but he's doing leak code algorithms right now. So he's a great one. If you don't know Midnight Simon, he's over on the Twitch side. He might be on YouTube as well, but you should go over there and watch him because stay and hang out with us, please, but you can also go over there and he does a lot more of the software stuff. In fact, I think I just saw that he's doing leak code right now. So I'm pretty sure that's what he's working on. But in fact, I typically raid over to Simon if he's still on when I'm done because he's more of an East Coast guy, so it's a little later for him. All right. Also, it's really dry in Phoenix right now, man. My knuckles I do jiu-jitsu, so I get pretty dry hands anyways, but my knuckles are kind of cracked right now. So it kind of feels weird. All right. It doesn't affect my typing any, though, for the most part. So let's go with... well, what are we working on here? I don't know why this keeps going to that view. There we go. This should be rotating. Let's see, that thing should still be drawn. Yeah, I see that drawn. Good. Okay, good. Well, let's just check the lab out. We'll start with the lab. That's good a place as any to start. See all the nodes. Let's check with something like, we'll just bang 721. We'll just see what the system looks like right now. We'll see red if any of the nodes are down. None of the nodes are down right now. So that's good. Yeah. All right. So that part of the lab is up. We have some lab stuff that we had been working on. We're going to probably... Let's delete the Kali base. That one's not being used. And let's get rid of the last release for Kali as well. So we don't need those ones right now. We've decided to go a different way in the lab than that. For one of the lab environments, I need to set up GNS3 for you guys. So if you don't know what GNS3 is, it's a simple little network tool, and you can also run virtual machines inside of it and that kind of stuff. But I'm just going to use that as an environment for you guys to be able to do the lab 12 stuff. So the lab 12 for the automation course is going to come from that, because if you look at the automation course down here, lab 12 was the networking, and I want you guys to actually be able to configure the networking devices with that. So that's something that I am going to be working on. I could do that now too as well. I just don't really want to do that yet. What else do I have? Lab looks good. Nothing looks too messy there. Let's see if not WCTL. Somebody's in on the ProLUG, so that's good. We don't always have people coming in from ProLUG. Like the systems have been highly unused this term, or this session of course, whatever you want to call it. So I see that somebody's in at least, so that's good. We could also find out where they are if we wanted to by, you just come back over here, and on this one, we get rid of the MOTD, and that would actually show, so we'd be able to see where the two users are right here if we wanted to. They're in Rocky 1, right? You say, how do you know? Well, because they're the only one that has two users. My user from logging in, and then the one other user that's in there. So there you go. Timmy said, I'm good at algos and technical stuff, but soft skills are annoying. They want me to answer questions in the STAR method, which is like prescribed response format, and I don't think like that. Yeah, that's fair enough. AD, you prefer Eve and G? Yeah, I was just going to use GNS3 because I knew it. And actually, one of the things I had wanted to do, the only problem is I wanted to run it in Kubernetes and just set up one of those like little fake CLI ones that you can connect to. But the problem with that was none of those, you have to go get the image each time. And if I were to put that in Killer Coda, pulling that image each time was going to be too much of a hassle. So I just, or I couldn't package it up because there's like certain license requirements. So I didn't want to do that. So there's that. Yeah, Tim, the best thing I can say about soft skills is just you got to practice interview questions. You know, I tell people all the time, the thing about interviews is it's the only place on planet Earth that you're allowed to, well, and even encouraged to brag about yourself. Anywhere else you brag about yourself, you're going to look like an asshole, right? So most of us we don't practice bragging about ourselves. But in the interview, you're expected to brag, and that can kind of be, I don't want to say problematic, but that can be hard for people because it's like, well, I'm not used to, I'm not used to talking like this. Get rid of this. It's annoying. Okay. Let's go. I don't really have anything. We could set up some of the Proxmox stuff today. I mean, we have Proxmox up. We have the lab environment there, mostly clean, just sitting there ready to go. We just need to start planning out what we're going to build over there. I have also in here some HPC stuff. People were asking me about, some of the, what were people asking me about? They wanted to know about HPC stuff, so I went and grabbed some topics from one of the job postings that somebody had mentioned. We were working on this the other day, the admin security stuff, but I didn't go back to it. That was a few days ago. Probably, I haven't streamed in a few days now. But there are some good resources out there in Killer Coda. And then if you need any of these notes are all up in the Discord. So if any of that stuff is interesting to you, that's all there. All right. Well, shoot. Let's think of what else we can work on here then. The boxes we got going on. So we got all these servers hanging out. We redeployed the Kubernetes the other day, actually on Saturday. We redeployed the web page, and the web page actually looks really good. If you guys don't know, all of this is done by one of the guys in our server, Treasure. He puts together the little the Go container, and then I just deploy it inside of a Kubernetes cluster. And he has some pretty good little, like, you can go look at the certificates. I wonder if, let me go find my original one. I gotta pull up a chat between he and I. Give me a second here, because I think let me see if he has when he first gave us. Let me see if I have when he first gave me the cert. Let me find. Hold on. I need to get one of the lists of them. Hold on. There's that. But I know he gave me mine, so I could put mine in there. Hold on. It's funny. All these different links he gave me that are unrelated but very funny. Hold on. Alright, give me one more second, guys. I know I'm close. D Hathaway. I kind of want to use mine, but okay, that's one of the guys. But I'd prefer to use mine if I could. I just don't know where mine is. I know he sent me that. XN. Oh wait, here's mine. Let me see if this one works for me. I didn't think the name was part of it though, but maybe it is. Yeah, there it is. Okay. Yeah, so that's me, and I don't mind if you guys know who I am, but I don't want to be, putting other people's stuff out there. But that's what our little, if you ever run these, if you ever go through our courses, that's what the little search looked like. Which, by the way, somebody just asked about in the Discord earlier, if we're still doing certificates, and we are. But we have the security engineering course that just finished. We only had 2 people do theirs, so only 2 people actually finished it. And then this one, the automation course, I gotta get people back on track because I don't know if anybody, maybe Zorgal is on track. I don't know if anybody else is, but that's kind of my fault too. So I'm probably just gonna push everything out this week, get everybody back on track, and then we're just gonna finish out the last 3 weeks together. So. How do you keep going? ProLUG. I don't know what that is. Are you asking how I'm rotating through these? Is that what you're asking? Like how it's rotating through the different things? That's a tool. I used to use a thing called, what was that one that used to rotate? Well, it's not supported anymore. But the one that's currently supported that I use is called Go Rotate. So this is just a little extension that'll just rotate through all the things. And the reason I started doing this one, because it's, well, any of these that are free like this, I think the old one was called Rotator. Anyways, but when I would build network operation centers out and I would like put TVs up on the wall for monitoring for the knock, I would do Grafana dashboards like this, whatever I wanted to alert on, and I would put them up on the wall with a rotating tool. And then it would just rotate through my different, whatever I wanted my people to see. If there were things that were color coded here, or if there were things that I needed them to see, like thresholds and alerts and stuff, I could just, it's like what we call a HUD, right? A heads up display. I could just have it up there on the wall or whatever. So that's, if you're wondering about that, yeah, that's just a tool rotating through in Chrome, if that's what you're asking, which I think is what you're asking. And then I also have it set in dark mode, because if I don't have dark mode on, a lot of this stuff can be kind of bright. And if you have people working like the third shift, the day shift is typically okay, the first and the second shift, but those night shift people, they're basically vampires. And you have to, yeah, you have to, if you guys haven't ever seen, there's a show called The IT Crowd. And I really do think it's, well, one, British humor is excellent. And two, if you haven't seen The IT Crowd, it's just so good for like tech stuff. And in one of the episodes, the vampire comes out of the server room, and he's the server guy, and like everybody forgot that he was even back there. And that's exactly how I grew up in the Linux world, where we would just be in the data center, or we would just be in a closet somewhere, and nobody even knew what we were doing or whatever. They were just paying us. As long as the stuff kept working, they never bothered it. They didn't even deign to know what we do. But now, and this is actually a big part of our security engineering course, now you have to give an answer for yourself so much more. Like, you have to tell the company what you're doing. You have to answer to the governance, risk, and compliance team, because that team feeds all the way up to the chief information security officer. There's so much more stuff going on that the company wants to know. So the days of us just being like stuffed in a room and left to our own devices are mostly gone. Most of your stuff, like, and having 1,000 scripts in your own little sandbox directory, that's kind of frowned on now. Now they kind of want it all. They kind of want it all out there in the open for everybody to see. And you typically have to push stuff up into code repositories. And I tell people, in the last 10 years, we all had to learn Git. That was always a software thing before, right? But now it's like, oh, you're on an infrastructure team, all the infrastructure is code, right? All the infrastructure is pushed up in a software repository, which, by the way, probably is a better way to do things. It's just, that was never the way infrastructure was, right? Infrastructure, we just built stuff and left it on our jump boxes. Now, everything is much more whatever. So, okay. The other things we can do is keep building out labs. So I got to build the 11, 12, and 13 lab here. I have those all, organized out in my head. I just have to write them. So a lot of that is copying this stuff and then just fixing it. I do have to do that. What else do I have to do? Oh, I should tell you guys a little bit about the Discord. If you guys aren't familiar, we've got Discord. Discord is free. That's one of the cool things about it. And we got a bunch of events. There's Bash Study Group on Saturdays. We've got the 16-week automation course that we've been going through. We've got the automation course study group. So that's the guys getting together, doing their own study groups. A lot of these, I don't even run all of these, right? These are other people in our Discord that run these other things. Some of the people have power to make these. There's a writer's room for the people that are helping with the course and putting the books together, because the books are all maintained by the community. I just kind of put out the lessons, and then the community builds the books. By the way, so if you didn't know, all these books right here are free. So all these things over here that have been rotating, these are all free. So I can link this to you guys if you want them. From this book, you can find any of the other books, right? There, that's linked on both sides now. We have a talk coming up, which I want to point out to you guys, because this one is always fun. We are starting Linux administration in a couple of weeks. So if you want to do Linux admin and get one of those little certs, this is the time to do it. We're going to do an 8-week compressed schedule. So we're going to be doing 2 lessons a week, and it's going to be fast. It's going to be like 20 hours of work a week. So it's going to be a lot of work for some people, but it's worth it if you want one of those cool little certs. Also then Jared, who I've known for a long time, he's a data architect over, he mostly does web analytic data. So Jared's going to come by and talk. So if any of you guys want to talk to him, he's I wouldn't say Jared's like super open for mentorships, but he's definitely there for people to talk to. If people genuinely ask him questions and want to see how he got into the field, because he's completely self-taught. Jared doesn't have a degree in the field at all. He's completely self-taught, and he's moved up to being an architect in, took him about 6 years to get there, in his role, and he hammers through it pretty good. He's moved probably like, actually, he might be 7 years in that role now, but in that space, and he's probably moved jobs 5 times to move up because he keeps getting more and more skills, which is kind of the way. I mean, that's kind of the way that it works nowadays in tech. Like, your skills are going to greatly outpace the 6% that your company can pay you, in even if you do well, they can only give you like a 6% raise. Maybe you get promoted and you get like a 20% jump or something, but most people have to jump companies in tech to go with their skills, right? That kind of stuff. Link to your Discord. All you gotta do is do an exclamation mark Discord over there. On the YouTube side, all you gotta do is look down in the description. But on Twitch side, there you go. Yeah. Adelpretz said, "Will taking the Linux admin course help users understand from a client side how things interact and make better user for Linux?" Yeah, Adel, I would say that the main thing about the Linux admin course, if I were to distill it down into one thing, is it will help you understand what the job of Linux administration is. That's what I think. Because here's the thing, right? There's all kinds of Linux going on. People come in here and they're like, I do this type of obscure Linux that only me and 3 other people do, and I'm like, that's cool. Like, as a hobbyist, I love all that, right? Like, I do all this stuff. I play with Linux all day. But as a professional, you're probably going to have to go filter down into like either a Rocky or an Ubuntu path, or maybe there's some Debian out there flying around in the production world. I'm not saying there's not. It's probably going to be pretty like specialized in whatever field you're doing. But like, let's say you want to go into high performance compute. It's almost all RHEL or Ubuntu, or maybe even some SUSE. There's some SUSE in there as well, but it's packaged as SLES, right? Well, anyways, where I'm going with that is, but the job, right? There's so much Linux out there. There's people doing Linux all over the place. We could sit around and talk about building kernels. That's one topic people are always asking about. And like, there's all these things that we can do, right? But none of that is what the job is. Like, you want somebody to, let you be an administrator on their system, and they're going to pay you, and you're going to do work for them. Well, what's the major thing that they want you for? Well, the major thing they want you for, in case you guys don't know what the course and what that book is about, is to keep their systems running. That's the main thing. And you might say, well, that's interesting. So then I say, well, yeah, so then the key performance indicator, the key metric that you want to achieve is high uptime. Okay, well, how do we do that? Well, we understand how to get systems back working if they go down, how to boot them, right? We understand how to maintain the systems, maintain users, like all these things, which are basically like the tasks right here, right? Tools and getting in the command line. A lot of that stuff is kind of basic stuff for Linux people. And then, how do we do storage? How do we add disks and RAIDs to a system, and why would we do that? Operating running systems. How do we know that a service started up, or that it was set to start up? And all these kind of things that some people are like, well, that's super easy. And I'm like, it is for some people. Some people do that stuff all the time, but not everybody's touched all those pieces. Not everybody's done security patching in an enterprise, right? So my point is, the Linux admin course wasn't designed to be directly a technical course. It is a technical course. There's all kinds of labs and stuff. But the point of it was to show you guys what the job is. Because most of you can play around with Linux and read a man page just as good as the rest of us. It's not super hard. But to get in there and see how you're going to interact, how the work's going to come in, what troubleshooting looks like, and what automation looks like, and how we harden systems, and how we handle incident management is a huge problem, right? Because everybody's cool when things are just chilling along, but what happens when shit hits the fan, right? When something breaks. So yeah, so anyway, that's the idea of those courses. Systems engineering is much more of like a before everything starts building the system to a set of standards, right? That's much more that. And then the automation course is a lot of the admin and engineering tasks and making them repeatable so that they become part of like really this next week is like pipelines and then how we make decisions in an enterprise. So we touch a lot of things that are admin to start all the way through like engineering stuff in some of the courses. And then I've got another course that I'm planning, but I got to finish these up, which is going to be high performance compute. That's going to be the next one we're going to do. The only thing that I can't show you guys in high performance compute, and this is mainly the reason I haven't run it, even though that's what I've been doing the last 15 years. Is I can't do hardware, right? Like I can do some hardware at my house here, but I can't do it like online in a fashion that everybody can get to it. So that's always going to be a limitation of like the high performance compute. But I can teach you the schedulers, and I can teach you all the other components of it, right? The werewolf part, we have werewolf stuff set up. So there's that kind of stuff. 80 said, have I tried it, Proxmox helper scripts? So I think possibly even you had told me about them before, and I've seen them, and I actually had them up on my system. I have not put them into my Proxmox yet, though. But I do have them. If we go over here, I know somebody showed me. The helper scripts. I know maybe it was even Chris that put them here. Yeah. So is that it? I don't know if that's the one, but somebody had given me these scripts, these helper scripts. Yeah, are these all the helper scripts here? Run them, download them. I think this is them. Yeah, I just haven't done it yet. I'll leave it up though, right? So now that's something. Once that's up there, that's for sure something that I'll do. I just I hadn't done it yet. No. So Addy, I've seen that. I think maybe even you had told me about it before, but I just need to run it. I think these are the helper scripts. Yeah. Containers. Yeah. Are they all just? Docker. Okay. All right, I will definitely play with them. I just haven't yet. I tell people all the time that I'll do things, and then I if I don't leave them up or if I don't put them somewhere, then I forget about them. But mainly, I just want you guys to know, like if you're in the Discord, I know I've actually been told this before about the Discord, and I think it's probably true of all Discords. You come in and you're completely overwhelmed. But what I tell people is like, just come in, look at the events, find an event you want to go in. If you ever see us down just talking in one of the channels, you guys are welcome. There's nothing there's nothing in the Discord to pay for. I tell people all the time, like, if you see people hanging out, you can just go hang out in there with them. As long as you're not making noise and stuff, like, I don't think anybody's going to care. And the worst thing that can typically happen is if you're making noise, people are just going to mute you and not listen to you. And then, you know, that's on you, right? Like, I can't help that if people ignore you. So I'm not saying you 80, I'm just saying in general, like, you know, that's any community thing. If people are making noise, they're going to get treated like that. So, but anyways, the Discord is really there for you guys, and I wanted a place that was persistent, right? I think we're at we just hit 4,600 people too, so that's kind of cool. We've got, you know, places you can go. There's always the beginner start here section that has a whole bunch of old videos and stuff for you guys to watch, things for you to hang out with, right? All that stuff's always free. So okay. In fact, the only thing around here that you could pay for is if you went to our Do All the Linux site, or if you actually went and picked up the book. Those are the only things that you can pay for around here. Everything else is free. I guess like Twitch subscriptions or something, but nobody has to do that. If you got Turbo or something, you just hang out. All right, but enough of that. Let's actually do something. That was our drawing from the other day. We could, if we wanted to, talk through. Let's see, Tim, are you still around? I don't know if you're still around or not. I don't want to call anybody out, but I can go over some of my soft skill talk. I have a bunch of like pre-built talks from long ago, and one of them that sometimes people want to talk about are like soft skills. Now this is not going to be like tied to anybody doing like some of you guys are, you know, if you're going to go for like software engineering thing, this is not going to be the type of thing that you would use for, how do I want to put that? This is not going to be the technical side of any of it, right? Like I have technical talks on a lot of stuff, but not this. This one is more like soft skill type things. And I think I still need to update it too, but like soft engineering skills are like day in the life of an engineer, things that engineers run into. Ironically, I used to call this soft engineering skills day in the life of an engineer things they don't teach you in college. That's what I used to call this. But then I started giving this talk to my college students. So this is actually a version, my own version, but I give this talk to my college students typically in week 8 of my courses. And I found that kind of funny and ironic because I'm actually telling it to my college students. So then I can't say it's something they didn't learn in college because I'm literally teaching it to them in college. So this is the same stuff right here that I actually show my college students.
Keeping the lights on at @het_Alice house for 42 months.
Yep. Keeping us going. Let me move that up a little bit so you guys can actually see your talk. There you go. Yep, Fisherman. Fisherman's always here. Fisherman's always lurking somewhere. In fact, if you guys don't know, Fisherman's the one that wrote the bot. So the bot is always being snarky and welcoming people to the server and stuff. And it's funny, you can tell when the bot's overwhelmed because, I don't think it's happened recently because I think he changed the way the API call was going. But Fisherman Guy Bro wrote the Fisherman Guy bot, and the bot will always say something snarky to people. But if it runs out of coins or whatever, tokens or whatever it used to run out of, it would just give a couple of canned messages, right? And it's been it's been a lot more diverse lately. So it welcomes everybody into the server, lets them know that they're good to look around. Mostly I tell people just go check out in the beginner start here section if you're overwhelmed, and then just start looking around. You know, we've got the tech talk, which is more serious stuff, right? We don't mess around in there too much. General chat channels kind of mess around a little bit. You'll see people kind of being wild in there. And then off topic is kind of a free for all. So I tell people, like, you can collapse a channel thing. If you don't want to see off topic, just ignore it. And then resources are like us doing stuff. And if you want to go see old presentations and stuff, there is one exception to this. I have some meeting notes up here, which mostly only I go into. And leave things. And if you ever see something on stream that's interesting and you let me know, I'll drop it in the meeting notes. So, for example, if you say, oh, Scott, that was kind of cool, this HPC thing that you were showing. I pulled this off of a web page, right? This was a job posting. But if you wanted if you wanted something to study, I would go drop this in the notes for you guys. I would say, you know, like this. I would go notes from stream. Right, and then you would have it if you wanted it, whatever. Because sometimes, I don't know, sometimes people just want different notes or whatever. So let's get that out of the way, and we'll go through this a little bit. Oh, that was like a message link thing that fixed. Okay, good, Fisherman. Yeah, I remember there was something going on for a while there. But for some of you guys, you've seen this before. This is like an old canned talk that I have, and I really want to update this one because I have like a lot more things to say about this. I have many more. Yeah, all these things in yellow are things that I still need to update. But some of the things are still there, so I'll just go through it, and then I'll put it in my notes here to make sure I update this because I've had these in. I'm pretty sure some of these have been in yellow for like almost 2 years now, so it's not like I'm doing that. But anyways, all right. So let's go. So let's talk about stand-up meetings. So you talk about like what are you going to do? Day in the life of an engineer. I'm new to a team. I know Linux well, or I know some storage topic well, and I got picked up on a team. But what's my day in the life going to look like? Well, you're going to have a bunch of different types of meetings. And one of the types of meetings you're going to have are stand-up meetings. In fact, my team just recently went back to this on NOAA, probably about 3 weeks ago. And a lot of us are like, man, we're getting a lot more done now because we do stand-up meetings. And there's 3 things you want to know there's 3 things that should happen in a stand-up meeting. In fact, when we used to meet in person in the office, as a little bit of lore before 2020, stand-up meetings, we would physically make people stand up. Does anybody know why? Anybody want to think about why, if you got a bunch of nerds in a room, making them stand up would matter? Said, what are your thoughts on the OSI? Is it relevant to learn to get network administrators? It's just nice to know. Sorry for the off-topic message. Yeah. So I use the OSI model to teach at the college level, so I'm a big fan of the OSI model. If you guys don't know, the OSI model is by the ISO, which is funny. And it is just a 7-layer model for networking. I have a really long talk on that. If you know, you know. But I can actually give you, well, I don't know. I'd have to go find where the link is. But if you go to my YouTube and then you go over to like videos, you can find the networking primer, which I think is about a 3-hour video on just networking. If you need the slides, I'm pretty sure they're up in the Discord. Actually, I do want to check that. I'm pretty sure the slides for the networking one are in presentations, and it should be called Networking Primer. Let's see. We have all the old talks in here from people, different stuff. Socratic Linux. If it is in here, it should be. There's my ProLUG networking primer. A little dated now, but it hasn't changed much. I've added to it, but it hasn't changed that much. So, anyway, so that's a whole bunch. You can download that and open it and whatever thing you like for PowerPoint. Some people use LibreOffice, which used to be Apache Office, which used to be, what was it called when I went to college? Because I was all open source for college. Like I did all my stuff in Ubuntu back then, but I kind of moved away from that when it gets too much to run it as a desktop. So anyway, stand-up meetings. Let's talk about them. There's 3 things that you should do. And did anybody figure out why we want nerds and techs and engineers to stand up in stand-up meetings? Anybody? Because anybody want to just guess? This is a real reason. If you ever do it, there's a real actual reason we do it to people. I'll tell you. It's because if you let an engineer sit down and talk, he will talk. It's to keep, yeah, that's exactly right, to keep meetings short. Because you let a guy sit on the phone, oh my God, have any of you guys had like virtual meetings? You let a dude sit there and talk, there'll be a 45-minute fucking update about all of and what he had for lunch yesterday and this, and then you're like, oh my God, dude. I heard, by the way, I heard the best insult today I think I've ever heard. Somebody said, like, ask me anything. I just retired from the military. And he was a big guy. So somebody said, how many little Debbie snacks can you eat before you get out of breath? I thought that's a pretty good insult. I like that one. In jiu-jitsu, we call it being a high-calorie grappler. So anyways, all right. But the point is, if you make me stand up and talk, I'm going to be like, okay, let's just get these 3 things out of the way. And here are the 3 things that you should focus on in a stand-up meeting. Your manager should enforce this. Your teammates should enforce it. But the idea is, what did you accomplish yesterday? So what were you working on? What did you finish, if you can? What are you working on today? Is it a continuation of yesterday or something else? And then what blockers do you have? Now, if you say what you accomplished yesterday and that should be a work item that's completed, artifact created, JIRA ticket closed out, CMDB item updated, whatever that is. If you say you accomplished it, it should be done, right? If you're still working on it today, when you say that, this is where your manager or your project manager or your scrum lead or whatever, God, man, there's fucking million managers that can be out there telling us engineers what to do. They should directly align you to something else. They should say, Scott, that's really interesting that you spent time yesterday on that ticket. I don't need you working on tickets today. I've got this higher priority thing that we see being a problem in the future, because they're the ones looking out towards the future. I'm just the guy working on the tasks that I have and the things that I know about. Hey, Scott, I need you to go work on this. I need you to go get on this Tiger team and solve this problem. They should align me right there in the stand-up. And then that sets my azimuth for the rest of the day, and I do that all for the rest of the day. Unless somebody does like a drive-by and hits me up later on in the day. But that's later. So what am I working on today? That's what I'm going to be doing if you don't redirect me, boss. Like I'm a ship just going in that direction. And then blockers are, well, hey, the networking team asked me a question on Friday. It's now Tuesday. I responded to them Friday afternoon after they asked me. I haven't heard from the guy on Monday. I haven't heard from the guy today yet. I think it's going to be a blocker because they asked me about this thing and I just wanted everybody to know that I've sent it out. And if you say that to a manager, a good manager will go take it to that person's manager and say, hey, your guy pinged my guy and my dude's been waiting for a response or something from him. And I just want you to maybe push on your guy a little bit. And getting blockers out of engineers' ways are the reason that CMDB teams exist and why managers exist. And you should, it depends on where you've been in the industry, but I can tell you right now, the engineer's time is the most valuable time. All the engineers, they need to have shit pushed out of their way so they can engineer. And that's generally true most companies. Anyway, so then everybody wants to be agile, so you're going to hear all your management talk about agile and scrum and this, and there's a scrum and fail safe and safe scrum and safe agile. There's all kinds of bullshit. But there's 4 points that make the basis of agile, and these ones are immediately ignored almost as soon as people call themselves agile. But individuals and interactions over processes and tools, meaning I don't need to go and formally fill out some CMDB form to talk to somebody else on some team if we're working on this project. If it's an agile project, I should just be able to hit them up on Slack and say, hey man, can you give me this piece of information? And that should be more important to do than, hey, you know what, I really think that you need to follow the go and put in this form and then I'll get back to it in 6 to 8 weeks or something. That's slow, right? It's the same idea here too, customer collaboration over contract negotiation. Somebody should be able to come sit in my, and maybe we got to talk about it when it's going to happen, but some network person should be able to come and sit in my cube for 2 hours and he and I work on it, instead of being like, well, but no, my team doesn't handle that. That's not what my team does. I'm a Linux guy. Go kick rocks over there by yourself, network boy. That's not a great way to run a company either, but that's also not in the spirit of Agile, right? What tab was it? Oh, Han Solo High. Wait a minute. It is, where did it go? It is in the presentations channel, and then it's back in 2023. But there's not a lot of chat in there. It's not but a couple of pages up. But it's called the networking primer. If you look up primer, it should come up. Yeah, HPC primer. You should find networking primer. Linux primer. That's an old one. I wrote that one 17 years ago now. If you want to go see my old Linux primer, that's old. That is in the administration course though. Networking primer should be in here somewhere. Yeah, if you don't see it there, it's right in the presentations channel. All right. So anyways, that's what a stand-up meeting looks like, guys. If you're not super familiar, business agile is really agile. It gives 100%. Yeah, and I know that there's been a lot of stuff in the news about it, but one of my favorite Dilbert. I used to have this up in my cubicle back in the day. This is from an old Dilbert, and the very first time I ever heard of agile was from Dilbert, and it was this one right here. They wanted to start agile methodology. Okay, open image in a new tab. Yeah. And it says we're going to try something called agile programming. That means no more planning, no more documentation, just start writing code and complaining. I'm glad it has a name. That was your training. By the way, where he says right here, no more planning and no more documentation. If you guys have ever seen my engineering talks where I talk about what we call why engineering, engineering is just hacking with some planning beforehand and some documenting after it. The little circle of, you got a little cloud of what's going on here, and it's hacking in the middle. And if you want to be a hacker, hack away. But if you want to be an engineer, it's a bigger circle with some hacking in the middle, and over here it's planning, and over here it's documenting, right? And we've talked about that a lot, so we won't go into that too much. But I do love that old. All right, so that's stand-up meetings. Let's talk about another type of meeting. You're going to hear these called ECBs or CABs. They're engineering change boards. They are change advisory boards. They are change action boards. I mean, there's a million, probably realistically like 9 or 10 different names that I've heard these called over the years. But at the end of the day, it's the idea that I want to change the system in some way. So I have to put in a change request, either a CR or RFC, request for change. People call them different things. Although RFC also has a different meaning that is completely unrelated unless you're talking about contracting. But engineering change board or change advisory boards are type of meetings where we get together and we talk about changes as a team. What has to happen for that is, so again, engineering control or change boards or change, a whole bunch of things. We configure systems correctly when we first build them, right? And when we first build them with that build as an engineer, we push that ship, that server off into the night. And that server is just going to run until time or entropy kills it, right? And something breaks and takes the server down. Some system, one of the big four, goes high and crashes the box, right? These are the things that happen. But before that happens, while the system's just out there, as we first built it, we have a build doc. The build doc is all the steps that it took for Scott and then some other engineer to come in and push a button and build or run a Kickstart file or whatever my process was to get a server to a thing should be documented. And that is how, if that server were ever to die, we could push out another one of the exact same server into the world. Okay, so that's like how we build servers. We configure servers correctly to whatever standard they're going to be, whatever baselines, whatever. And then we keep them that way by maintaining with change management and avoiding what we call configuration drift. Because I'm telling you right now, you guys can build 100 servers today, push them out into an environment, the next day they will all be different. Now, they'll be log different, there'll be different things, but I'm not saying they're all going to be significantly different, but over time they will start to be different. People will get requests, and your admins will start changing things, and there's all kinds of stuff that'll happen, especially when we're talking about stateful nodes, right? An old gray beard, yeah. It's actually funny, Zorgal, because I have, like, I mean, I've been keeping it kind of short, but, like, I have so much gray in my hair now. Over the last few years, I have so much more gray. I'm only 44, but I have been a grandpa for almost 6 years, so he'll be, well, he's turning, is he turning 6? No, he's turning 5. He's turning 5, so I've only been a grandpa for 5 years coming up here. This month, in fact, right at the end of the month. But all changes to the environment must be approved. They must be tracked. We're going to use some kind of thing. You guys will hear me say CMDB. That's Configuration Management Database, right? CMDB. And somebody needs to maintain that thing. And this will be, anybody that's worked in an operational team, anybody that's worked in an engineering team knows right now that what I'm about to say is 100% true. That thing is supposed to be the source of trust in your environment, but that thing is almost always incorrect. So those two truths exist. It's supposed to be a thing, but it's almost never that thing, even with your best efforts, right? But just because, you know, things don't work out the way that we always want doesn't mean that we shouldn't still talk about them in the way that they work best, right? Like, this is what we're supposed to do as engineers. So we do go through change advisory boards. In fact, I got a change going on. I got to put that change in tomorrow at work probably. But changes tend to follow this type of information. Also, they have a certain complexity. So the complexity of the change deals with, you know, is it a standard change? Standard changes tend to be the easiest. Standard changes might be something like, hey, you need to add a disk to the server. Well, adding disks to servers in a virtual environment is as easy. This is exactly how easy it is right here. I could go to this red server right here, and I can go look at his storage and see that he's got this one hard drive on him. And then I can go, red 1 is sitting out there. Let's go check on red 1 real quick. Hold on. Grab red Etsy host. Let's just search red 1. Is red 1 up? He is not up. Yeah, I might have taken them all down. I thought he was up though. Let's go check. Oh no, you guys gotta remember I'm colorblind. I didn't realize he was down. Let's go look at, like, which of these guys is up? Grafana 2 is up. I don't want to necessarily mess with Grafana 2, but let's say, so here's Grafana 2. Should be able to get in there. Okay. Uptime, df-h, and then ls, blk, right? And we see that he's got one disk on him, right? And fdisk-l, grep for xvd. He's got one disk with 3 partitions on him. Hold on. I can add a disk, and this would be like a routine change. So maybe a standard change goes in and we track it still, but it doesn't have to go through a change board. So that's what a standard change complexity might be. And I might just add a disk to this. I might just say, you know what? Go ahead and give him 10 more gigs. Give it to him from this lab storage space because we got 419 gigs free. And we'll just call this test disk 1, let's say. We add it in. It'll add the disk right there. I'll come over here. I'll run my fdisk-l, and probably about as fast as I can get to it, I'll see my new 10 gig disk right there. He wasn't there a second ago, and now he's there, right there. New disk. Okay, not quite added to the system yet because now I have to do some logical volume management. I have to add that in, right? PVS, VGS, LVS, and I'd have to add that, and we can go through that whole procedure if we wanted. But the point is, if somebody were to say, hey, Scott, we need a little more space because our root partition is at 69%, and that's the threshold to where we add another 10 gigs to most of our servers in our environment, extending their life out for, you know, the full block of 3 to 5 years or whatever we expected that stateful volume virtual machine to exist, then we would, you know, put that in there, and then we could extend that and all that. That may be a standard change, but I would still want to track that was happening in my environment. So a complexity of change may be standard. They may be something that, as long as management kind of signs off on it, it just goes through. It doesn't have to wait for a change board, which is typically only about once a week. You know, get all your changes in by Tuesday so we could do our review by Wednesday. As long as the review passes Wednesday, you can do your whatever your non-prod changes are during the Thursday, Friday, or you could do your prod changes during your, I don't know, maybe next week, Tuesday night window. Whenever your windows are in your environments, they're going to be different. But we need to talk about the systems that are affected and their associated services. This is super important because the systems are going to be tied to their owners. So just because I built all 1,500 servers in my company does not mean that I'm the owner of all of them. The owner are the dev team managers that own those 30 or 50 servers as resources. I'm just the admin. Oh, shoot. My brother's calling. Guys, we got to take a break real quick. Hey, Steve, give me a second real quick. 1 second. Guys, we're gonna take a break real quick. Hold on, let me throw up my. Hold on here. Let me throw up my hourglass, and I'll be right back. Hold on. So quick break, and then more systems. We'll do 8 minutes. All right, guys. I'll be back. All right, I'm back, guys. Let me turn my stuff back on here. I'm back. Excuse me. me and my brother were trying to plan. Me and the wife take his. So he's got one of my brothers has triplets, and yeah, triplets. I know. So me and the wife always just take them out on their birthday, and they're turning. What are they turning this year? I guess it'd be 14 this year. So we'll take them out probably like Buffalo Wild Wings and like Dave and Buster's or something. So we'll do all that. Have a good one, everyone. Yeah. Thanks for coming. I know you're probably already gone, but that's a good one. Airhead Night volume management scares the crap out of me because one wrong move and system won't boot up. True. Yeah, discs involved. So it's actually funny you say that. Some companies are very much against doing disk add and volume management during work hours for that same reason. Also, with virtual machines, especially in like VMware, you can snap them before you make that change and then roll back. Now, it'll still have the disk. When you add a disk, it's added even if you roll back. However, hold on, you won't have the change made where you've extended the volume over the disk. So that could be something that you go, you know what, maybe we leave that off in the system, or maybe in some cases we would just add a whole new bigger size volume to it, and then we would do Linux moves within the system, just make a whole brand new one, right, in off hours, and then we'd do a Linux move, and then pull out the old partition or the old whatever after. So I always call that, like when we have that type of movement in engineering, I call that the free cell problem. Anybody here ever played the game Free Cell? You only have so many places to move cards up when you go to move cards over, and the system will automatically do it if you're playing it like in a computer. But it's this idea that like I want to go from here to here, but I don't have enough storage in between. So I always call that the free cell problem. So, anyways, all right. What were we talking about? Yeah, so we were talking about changes, and then there's all these things like, is there expected downtime? Now, here's the thing. Sometimes there's no expected downtime, but there's a chance that there will be downtime. And that is still an important thing to note. Like, there is always a non-zero chance that a system just breaks. I've actually done a volume extension one time, which is like the safest thing ever. LVM, or LV extend -R and then -L 100%, make it bigger. And I've had that crash a drive before on a system. Weirdest thing. It's the only time it's ever happened to me. It completely crashed the box. I've only ever seen it happen once. Never seen it since. Never seen it before. It was in a non-prod environment, and the box I was just messing with, and it's like, But it happens, right? So there's always a chance that there's downtime. Now, you can say there's no expected downtime, but it's good to have a plan, right? You always have to have a rollback plan. And then how are we going to get the system back up? Is it going to be like what's that scale? Is it 5 minutes to get the system back up if we crash it? Is it 4 days, right? Because I've seen it be, and some things, you go and you turn a server off and bring it back up, and that was its last time ever booting. Like physical boxes, that's much more common than virtual machines or whatever. Yeah, SDCC, yeah, or SDDC. Okay. Yeah. I've seen some things get bricked in my time. And then, has this been performed and tested in a lower environment? Now, it doesn't always have to be in your environment, because I've worked with all kinds of things where it's like, okay, this is the first time we've ever built something. Thankfully, before you push things into prod, you almost always just can do whatever you want to them. But let's say that you got a bunch of teams working on something, and you're kind of moving it like a ship through a shipyard, so you can't just willy-nilly change shit. Sometimes your performing and testing in a lower environment is, hey, this is vendor recommended. It has been tested in a similar environment by the vendor. This comes directly from the what they call the sales engineering team, or this comes directly from their documentation on the correct upgrade path from this version to this version. We got to upgrade every 2 versions as we go to get up to the current. These kind of things are pretty common, right? Yeah, I'm surprised that came back up. But anyways, these are the types of things that we might want to know for a change. And then changes must get the following approvals before going to the board, typically the asset owner. And then when they're at the board, they have to be approved typically by whatever manager, which is typically a director or higher, that is in charge of the operational running of the team, right? And if they see it as too much of a risk, sometimes you got to push these things to other windows, or sometimes you have to go back and fix some of these things. This is how change management works. They put the brakes on things that we do as engineers, because I'll just shoot something over the wall, or as they say nowadays, just yeet it over the wall, right? Just fucking send it, right? If I can't get downtime, I'll make downtime, right? That's the old joke. But No, no, no. A lot of people are much more risk averse, especially if you're on a team that's not like super bleeding edge technology adoption. You know, they're further back on the technology adoption curve. That's something there. So happy Monday. Yeah. Well, we're all done with Monday, thankfully. So this is just us hanging out now. So let's talk about updating dev versus prod. Actually, I haven't updated that one yet. So let's talk about fit for use and fit for warranty. These are two topics that come up quite a bit in even some of my college students. We were talking about this last week. We were having a discussion about what a proof of concept or a MVP, a minimum viable product, is, right? And the idea that something is fit for use is, does the system do what it's supposed to do? So, real quick, here's our web page, right? And if I refresh this web page, it goes to prolug.org, and it's like, okay, that works. But does that work all the time? Does that work if 5,000 people try to connect to it? Does that work if somebody connects to it from a different part of the globe? Like, this is, you know, wait, where's that at? This is only one little, you know, the fit for use of this is it a port 80 functioning web server? Yes, it is that thing. I can check that box. Is it in dark mode? Sure, by default. Is it able to handle you know, links to other places? Are the links all correct? Sure, check. Those are fit for use things, right? Does the system do what it's supposed to do? And then it speaks to its capability to meet the minimum requirements. So functional testing determines this. Is it a web server on port 80? Is it functioning with HTTPS and being properly TLS terminated according to whatever certificate authority our users trust? Sure. Right? Those are all things you can check, and you can see that they all worked. Fit for warranty is something completely different. Fit for warranty is a thing that is when something gets ready to go to production. A minimum viable product and a proof of concept only have to pass this test. Can I get this minimum thing working to show you that it works, right? Can I get it to connect into like a test database one time and read a user out and show the user in a certain way? Okay, cool. If I can do that, then, you know, theoretically, I can start working towards fit for warranty, which is querying 1,000 users at a time. Fit for warranty is, how does the thing function in the wild? These are called non-functional tests. So this right here is when I turn the key, the car starts. This is when I turn the key 5,000 times in a row, it still starts the 5,000th time. The idea is, could I warranty it? And what I always tell people for fit for warranty, you are betting your weekend that this works over the weekend. And you say, what do you mean by that, Scott? I don't care if you're the most principal engineer on the planet. If you build something that's designed to work and it breaks and you're, you know, some principal engineer off and whatever, but you're the only guy that can fix it, I guarantee you your phone's going to ring. That's all there is to it. So you're betting your weekend that this thing works. So fit for warranty is, does it do it as often as it's supposed to? Think of like a warranty on a car, right? It's a 30,000 mile drivetrain. They want it to break at 30,001 mile. They want it to break just outside of that window, not a second before. And I tell you guys, I'm not going to tell a story right now, but I tell you guys sometimes about how I used to work with satellites at Lockheed and how those things work. And there's all kinds of mathematics that go into how they build that stuff nowadays. But it's a tremendously interesting thing that there's no longer just engineering the best thing possible. Now there's also a whole discipline in engineering just the thing that costs what it should for the life of whatever, you know, low Earth orbit satellites are 5 to 7 years, right? So you don't need something that can go work for 30 years up there anymore. All right. So this one is an interesting one. I picked this up in college, and this one was always, this was a director level. In fact, last time I checked, this guy has about 3,000 people under him at Honeywell. This is one of my professors in college for he was my first master's degree. He was in my MBA, not in my information systems management degree, but which is funny because he is over information management over at Honeywell. But anyways, he taught us, how does it threaten me and what's in it for me? And I always liked this. This always stuck with me because these two topics right here are, how does it threaten me and what's in it for me? And it's very interesting. If we were having a discussion right now and I came out as an engineer and I told you some new thing was rolling out and I started talking about all these other things There are two questions you have in your mind when you find out that a change is coming in an organization. And if any of you have ever sat in like a meeting, which I know most of you have, I'm telling you right now, when you find out there's a change coming, your brain shuts off until these two questions are answered. And you say, no. And I say, yeah, I guarantee you, I don't care if you work at a fucking pizza place and you deliver pizza. It does not matter. If somebody tells you, hey, we're going to change the way that something happens in the company, the way you check in, the way you log out, the way you deliver pizza, I guarantee you, until these two things happen, until these two things are talked about, you don't hear anything else that they're talking about. Watch. It's, how does it threaten me? So how does it change what I'm used to? How does it affect my status quo? How does it whatever, right? How does it threaten me? And then what's in it for me? How does it make my life easier? I worked at a school district when I first got out of the Army. So this would have been 2004-ish. And I remember we were transitioning the teachers off. This was 2003, 2004, right at the end of 2003. We were transitioning the teachers off of grade books. Some of these kindergarten teachers had been working in grade books, physical grade books, for over 30 years. And I remember this. Some of these teachers, they fought tooth and nail. I can't do grades. I can't get into one of these systems and do grades this way or whatever. I could never do it. And I remember a couple years later, because I was only with the school district for about 2.5 years, and I had moved up and I was doing some other stuff. But I remember a few years later, one of those systems went down, and all the teachers were like, I can't do this without this computer system. And these were like teachers that had been teaching for like 30 plus years. Where I'm going with that is like, people are always resistant to change until they know these two things. And then it's like once they saw what was in it for them and how much easier it was, they couldn't go back to the old way, which I think was kind of funny. But anyways, the point is, have any of you ever sat in a meeting? This happens. I used to work at an insurance company, and they would love to have like a big hour-long town hall. And at the end of the town hall, they're going to tell you guys what the bonus was for the year. You're always typically getting a bonus in a lot of these insurance companies, because if you guys don't know, the insurance model is taking a bunch of money and then just taking money. That's the insurance model, and then pay it to your employees. So we were always getting these bonuses that were between 100 and 200% of what the expected bonus was. And what I'm saying is they would tell us, okay, in this meeting, the CEO is going to tell us what our rate was so that you could go calculate, I'm going to be at 130% of my stated bonus or 170%. And these were like pretty good bonuses. These were like, I think mine was like 15% of my salary or something. And then I'd get 170% of that. So it was like 3 months pay. It was a lot of money, right? So I'm telling you right now, I couldn't tell you a single thing any one of them ever talked about for the first 45 minutes of that meeting, because all I cared about was what was in it for me. And I guarantee you every single other, it was like there was no reason for the first 45 minutes of that meeting because nobody ever heard a single thing in it. Anyway, so where I'm going with that is and you say, Scott, why are you showing me this as an engineer? Because sometimes, and I've had this happen to me a lot, I'll get called up to go talk in front of a bunch of engineers about some change that I'm implementing or something that's going to be coming down the pike, right? And yeah, that's the right way to say it. And in case you guys don't know, people say down the pipe all the time, and that's not correct. Anyway, so where I'm going with that is, if you want effective communication, you have to address these two things first with a change for your users. Hey, we're going to make it easier. Hey, we're going to streamline your login. Hey, yes, you still got to use multi-factor, but you don't have to use the token anymore. Now you can just get it emailed to you. Most people, that's a preferable method because then they just delete the email. But some people, they like the little token things, and some people love YubiKeys, man. I got a YubiKey that I can touch. I think that's interesting. Like, I actually have to touch it with my finger to prove that I'm at it. I think that one's kind of interesting. So it's something I have and somewhere I am, right? Like, I can't just have it and then have it plugged in my computer and be out somewhere and accept it. I have to be at the YubiKey. That's kind of an interesting multi-factor authentication. Anyways, presenting data. This one actually gets me a lot, having run teams for the last 15 years. And when I say run teams, I've never been the manager. I've always been the tech lead. There's an old mechanic quote. I picked this up in college, and I always liked it. I've heard this actually said multiple ways by other people. One, even a big political figure that people either love or hate. And I'm not going to mention his name because I don't want to distract everybody. But I'm going to tell you that this is a thing that I read this in the context of a guy who was a mechanic in California, not Colorado. And he had like 30 little auto body shops. And people were like, well, you didn't go to school and you didn't get a degree and you don't understand, like you don't understand the formal parts of business. Why are you so successful when so many other people fail? And he goes, well, because early on I realized, this was his quote right here, It doesn't matter how long you've been in business. People will judge how well you can rebuild an engine by how clean your bathroom is. So he made sure that when people walked in, he always presented like a clean front and had a clean place for them to sit and whatever. And it just, his business was always booming. Had nothing to do with how well he rebuilt cars or did cars and the mechanic. I'm sure that was part of it later, but this was something he had determined early on, was I'm always going to have the presentation of my business pretty nice. And that was something that mattered. So as engineers, if you guys have been in any of my other talks, like, we deal in truth, we deal in accurate information, right? So the presenting of information is tremendously important to us as engineers. So one of the things I always tell I've had to correct so many engineers, probably on the order of like 100 over the years. Junior engineers, we'd have, some kind of college student come through or something. And this is something I got to show people right here. And you might say, Scott, you really have to show that to people? Yes, I've had to show this to so many people over the years. This right here, this exact example. That top left one, I've been looking at Linux terminal for like over 25 years now. I was going to say almost 30. It's not quite almost 30 yet, but it's over 25. And it's like that top left one, I can't read that. And I've been reading this for a long time. That bottom one looks real nice. I like that bottom one. And I tell people, hey, Leith, how's it going? Yeah, it has been a while, isn't it? You're still in the Discord, though, right? We got a good amount going down. We just hit like 4,600 people, too, Leith, so that's kind of cool. But look at this, guys, real quick. So the top left one, I tell people all the time, like, instead of sending that, why don't you just send that to them? Why don't you just flip them off? Why don't you just, like, just send that, but then, like, stamp this over the front of it? Because, honestly, why would you ever send anybody that? And I don't say that ironically. I'm just like, seriously, if you pulled something out of a terminal and dropped it in a email and it looked like this, they're the same exact thing, by the way, guys. Like, I'm just telling you, like, why don't you just come over to my desk, pull off your glove like this, and smack me in the face? Like, this is like legitimately, but the biggest affront to good engineering right here is that nothing is learned here. No information is passed here, right? That's the problem. That's the biggest affront, right? And when I'm wagging my finger and telling you, no, you can't do that, this is correct, right? There's 4 C's of technical writing, right? I get into this in the Discord sometimes. There's 4 C's of technical writing. This is not coherent and is definitely not clear. It's correct. It's 100% correct. And it's, as much as it can be, it's concise. Those are the 4, by the way. But it is not clear or coherent, right? Anyway, so Courier New looks real nice. That's the way it came out of the terminal. Just do that. And you might say, Scott, you've never had to show. I've had to show this to so many people over the years. I'm like, I'll send them their own email back and go, can you read that? And they're like, no. And I'm like, how the fuck would you send that to somebody who doesn't look at the terminal all day? Like, we look at a terminal all day. This is up on my screen pretty much. Something like this is up all day. And if you were to shrink this up in all kinds of ways, I'd have a hard time reading it. But somebody who doesn't know what they're looking at, that's a mess. Why would you send it to them? Now, this next one is a real one. This is actually, I took this directly from an assignment years ago from one of my college students. Every single piece of information on this thing is correct. It is a 192.168 5.0/24 address that they have borrowed 1 bit from in fixed length subnet masking. So it's 192.168 5.0/25, and then 192.168 5.128/25. So it's 2 subnets. But I'm telling you right now, if you put that up in a PowerPoint or something, you might as well just smack that on the front of it. Like, what literally, there's no information is correctly conveyed in this image, right? And I just corrected the student. I didn't take any points off for it, but I'm saying, like, in a final project, if this was something you were going to show somebody that wanted to employ you, they're going to look at that. And it's the same thing I tell people. You can say this is a terrible world. You can say this isn't fair, Scott. You can say you're mean, Scott, for telling me. I'm just going to tell you this is true. People are going to judge how good of an engineer you are by how well you spell stuff. And you say, no. I say, yeah, you spell like you're writing in some kind of leet speak for your text messages and stuff, and people are going to think you're an idiot, whether you're the smartest engineer in the company or not. It doesn't matter. The way you, and again, it's one of these things where you're like, it should just be about the engineering. part of engineering is correctly conveying information. So this is perfectly correct information. It's just not coherently conveyed to somebody. So this is no good. This is just, I just throw this thing out. I wouldn't even include this. Somebody gave me that, I'd be like, oh, fuck, I'll do it myself, right? Like, but auditor harassing you and send his fisherman. I think that's a fair point, especially if they're like a team member or something. Yeah, but also some of those people are used to getting, garbage, so they just format it themselves or whatever. But yeah, so take pride in your work. This is huge. Again, some people only interact with you via those emails, and send them something that's of value. Send something that, like, I have a different talk that kind of hammers this a lot more, but it's like engineering. Our value is truth, like what we know and can prove in the company, and then how well we can get to like the right answer in like a troubleshooting scenario. Those are really the two things that they want us for, right? And sometimes that's building new stuff as well. But anyways, all right. So take pride, and then this one's to that other point, but this is more about the correctness. Be above reproach. This one, you're gonna be like, oh Scott, you're gonna go sit up on a mountain and tell me you're better than me. No, that's not what this is. This is, I don't want anybody to ever like get a set of numbers from me and look at it and go, that doesn't seem right, and then go check it and find out I was wrong. This right here is be above reproach. It's like nobody ever has to turn around and come back to me or turn around and say, hey, can somebody check Scott's numbers because Scott doesn't give good information. I never want. I would. I should almost for this one put that. What's that scene? Hold on. I almost want to go like this if somebody did that to me. You guys all seen this GIF where he's like, how fucking dare you, right? That's what I feel like. I don't want, and I don't want that. So how do I correct that? I don't ever get it there. I don't ever let it be there. So how do we be above reproach, right? Well, this isn't some esoteric truth. I'm not giving you some platitude. Platitude is high-minded talk that doesn't really help any. A platitude would be like, wherever you go, there you are. And you're like, oh, fucking that's profound. I can live my life by that. No, you can't, right? Or another one would be like, I don't know. I think this is maybe that one does have a little bit of another platitude is eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we die. Right? That's an old one, but that's a platitude. Doesn't help you any, right? Like I guess that one does give you instructions, but anyways, I've often said engineering is a search for truth, so you look for ones and zeros, true and false. So we test for those, but like I would always tell you that we deal in precision and truth. So people will tell you things, and you'll get called out in the middle of the night, and they'll be like, "The server is down." And you'll go, and the server will most certainly be up. And they're like, no, sorry, we meant the service is down. And you're like, well, that's a different thing to me. But to everybody else, that's not a different thing. The service and the server are the same things for some people. But for me, if this server had only been up 20 minutes when I got there, I would be having a totally different set of things that I'd be looking at than if it's been up for 90 days and there's a problem, right? If it's 90 days and there's a problem, I'm going to go look at usage, and I'm going to see, did something go high and crash? Did some memory go high and pop? Something. But if it's rebooted, then I might be looking for hardware errors or physical or heat in the data center. I could look for vMotion moves. There's all kinds of things that I might do. Does that make sense? But if the server's up or the service is up, are two completely different things for me. So, anyways, where I'm going with that is, I've been on calls, and you guys might think I'm making this up because I've told this over the years, but I've been on calls where we're working on something, and somebody goes, wait a minute. What server did you say? And they're like, oh, we're all on test server 01, whatever. And they're like, no, this is a different environment. It's actually the P-test server 02. And you're like, but it's almost like a game. You guys ever heard that game of telephone where you keep whispering in the next person's ear and it gets to the end and it's a totally different story than what it started? That's kind of what call-outs are if somebody's not controlling the bridge correctly and how information is coming up and you're not presenting the information as you're working through it, kind of like a Kepner-Trego type process. But anyways, trust but verify. Make sure you're working on the right stuff, looking at the right stuff. That will save you a lot of trouble, right? Another thing is if I say something on a call or I write something in an email, I back it up with proof right there. Hey, that server you guys sent me to, that server's been up for 90 days. And I'll grab that and I'll put it right underneath it. in that same output, right? So it'll be Calibri body or whatever, or courier new rather. Yeah, courier new, because I want it to look like that as it's in there. And then I say, you don't ever want to have to backtrack. And somebody's like, no, Scott told us that on the call. It's right there in the record. But I'm like, I'm giving them bad information. I don't want anybody to ever do that to me. So I don't, again, your engineering currency, if you keep getting asked stuff and you keep giving people bad answers or useless answers, you're going to find that people stop coming to you. And that's not a great place to be, especially if your manager stops coming to you. If your manager doesn't trust you to figure stuff out, that's a bad place to be on an engineering team. Anytime I've ever seen people get laid off over the years, it's been people that the manager, I don't know how else to put this except they have no use for them. They don't provide any value to the team, right? They don't produce work output. They're not useful in troubleshooting. Like, why are we keeping this person around? And then they're almost always the first one to get cut, right? Another one is, oh man, this feels like that other problem. People talk about how they feel on calls like this all the time, especially like when it's late at night. But like, feelings are irrelevant, and they're what we call an anti-methodology. They're not a great way to think as an engineer. If you ever work in a, they don't read it anyways. That's actually funny, Fisherman. One of the ones that I never had this used on me as an example, but I've actually heard of people doing this. But if you ever do like a doctoral course, or you'll hear it also, I've heard of this in like legal courses, but I took some ethics courses in college, but never like some heavy legal stuff. But they'll do like a Socratic session with the students, and they'll ask some questions, and the students will be answering, and all the professor will say over and over again for 30 minutes is incorrect, wrong, incorrect, and the students will be like, no, I said, like, no, like this person, this and this and this, and at the end of like this little exercise of literally every student, even the smartest students in class, getting it wrong, they'll tell them what the answer is, and the answer, especially with like database stuff, is you say this person found or this person concluded. You actually say what the research said or concluded or found or described or defined or whatever. It's not I feel or I think. If you ever say I think in like an academic sense, you're probably incorrect. And that's like, I know people online like to argue about shit, but that's all argument. That's not debate, right? Like when you do academic argumentation, which is more of a formal debate, you don't say I think or I feel or I whatever. You say the data are showing us this. That's the correct way to say a lot of that stuff. Or they argued that the data show these outcomes based on, this quantitative correlative study. And then you start to mention, what happened in the study. That's a different way to look at things than like I feel. Does that make sense? Now you might say, Scott, you would be completely insufferable. I get it. You don't have to like hard hold to that. But what I'm saying is people will say things like, this feels like this other problem. And you say, well, in what way? And they're like, well, actually, so what I'm seeing is a flapping of an interface, but the service itself is not going down, but this. And you're like, oh, that is like the other one. But that's totally different than it just feels like this other problem. Does that kind of make sense? Maybe you got to ask people to dig in and that kind of stuff. But yeah, just feeling and how you feel about stuff, it's a anti-methodology. It's not good. It's not useful. You should learn how to look at data. I'm not telling you guys you got to be a data analyst, but you do need to understand what scope and scale are, right? Scope and scale are like this. Let me show you guys something here. So let's go. I think I have maybe a better example of this one. That's the servers. Oh, I don't have the server one up, do I? Hold on. Oh, I don't have the security one up. Let's do the security one. I think the security one will be the best. No, maybe, hold on. Lab monitoring, this would be a good one. All right, pull this over for a second. So, wait, is this? This might not be the right one. I thought it was here, but maybe. lab servers. Up, down. Security and connectivity is a good one. Yeah, I thought it was lab monitoring, but this one doesn't have. They're way down here. All right, let's make this a little bigger so that it shows the whole thing like I want. Hold on. I don't know why those are so low there. Oh, it's because it's got the thing for all the other ones. Wait a minute. Where are all my other nodes at? Let's switch it to lab. There we go. Okay, so there's the lab ones. All right. So where I'm going with this is let's look at one of these real quick, and let's say I stop this from spinning for a second. Stop rotation. All right. This will be a fine one. This will be a fine one right here. So let's go look at this real quick. Let's edit this one here. And for the most part, it doesn't look like there's really any change here, but there's a little bit of change. So let's go right here. Let's look at this. And then let's come over here on the right and let's change the percentage there. So the unit and then the, we're gonna mess with this a little bit. Line width, where's our options unit? That's fine. We could change the type of unit, but that's fine. I want the ranges. Repeat option, panel lengths. Hold on, I'm trying to find my... I wonder if it's because I have... Here we go. So the percentage, the Y min is 0 and then 100s, but let's just change this just for fun. Let's change this to like 14 and then like 14.5. Whoops. Okay. And then we say, well, no, actually, you know what? I want 14.1 through 14.2. And then I say, okay, we could be even more precise here. Let's go 14. Okay, look at that. So now it might even be, and I might even be able to go, let's go 14.18. That's interesting that it goes. That's interesting. I don't know why we're seeing it between there and there. 14.1 and 14.2. So I should be able to do. Let's go 5. No? Still not, huh? Oh, no, it needs to be 14.14. There we go. Okay, and then this one could be 14.18, let's say. And then let's even go to like 6 or 5. Maybe 6 is better. All right, there we go. All right, so where I'm going with that is you might look at this and go, Scott, hold on a second. So there's an old saying, right? If you show me a statistician, I'll show you a liar. If I showed you this in this context right here, which you're going to go, Scott, that doesn't make any sense. You just zoomed in on one little bit of time and then you put the scale so that it would go like that. Well, I could still present that on us thing and say, look, we've gone up this much. We need a new system. We're running out of space. And if nobody, and then maybe I obfuscate this so people don't see the scale over here, that it was just a flat line, right? When we looked at it over time, there was almost no growth at all. But the point is, there's another saying that's like that too. There's liars, damn liars, and statisticians, right? And there's this idea that like I can make this steady growth over the last Don't worry about the time. It's only been like a few minutes, but the point is like you can dishonestly display data was my point in showing you guys that, right? And then when you look at this in the real context of like the last 7 days or whatever, it's like, well, no, it was just basically a straight line. Anyways, so you got to understand scope and scale, and then you need to understand your mean, your median, and your mode, as well as what distinct outliers are, what distinct outliers do to data, why we should clean data. Now, I'm not saying you need to be an expert in that stuff, right? But like as an engineer, you should be able to look at stuff and see, like, I'm saying either kind of just draw a line with your eyes as a linear regression, or go learn how to do linear regression. They're really easy to do. There's like matplotlib libraries that'll just do it for you, and it'll just it's least square regression, right? Now, you don't have to know how to do that off the top of your head. The systems can do it for you, but you should figure out how to do some of that stuff. And by the way, you don't have to memorize it because, by the way, this will do it for you right here, right? Like all this stuff I'm telling you to do, these will draw lines for you if you want them to. But you should understand what those are so that you can talk to the data if somebody asks you. Like, hey, you look at these things all the time. What are they actually showing you? And you say, well, I'm looking for this, I'm looking for that, whatever. I'm not telling you have to be some expert in that, but if you want to go from being like an admin to like an engineer, those are kind of the things you need to shore your game up in a little bit. And one of these days, we're going to have like just a course on like admin to engineering transition. Like that's going to be one of our focuses. Because a lot of people are doing admin work now in our group, and we need to get them, moved up to where they're, making engineer money. So avoid all the anti-methodologies you can find. The blind man just changes things at random and hopes. That's not great. That takes a lot. That turns a lot of stuff off. Spotlighting is only looking at tools you're familiar with. You've got to understand more than just that. You got to up your game a little bit. And you say, well, Scott, I don't know how to do that, right? I don't know where to go to look at that stuff. One of the best places in all the web is this guy, Brendan Gregg. Right here. Brendan Gregg. This guy right here's got probably the best thing on the internet around performance monitoring. So he's got his Linux performance stuff. So I'll link this to you guys. This is probably the best place to spend your time if you want to get better at some of this. But he shows you just Linux observability tools. And typically when you hear me talk about things, I talk about the big four. The big four are CPU, memory, disk, network, in that order. And he's showing you all the ways to go look at each of those pieces of the system. There's the general Linux performance observability tools, right? He's just got so many good things on here. Benchmarking and tuning, different tools that exist. Static performance, like what's there, like what's configured, what's set, right? That's super useful. Benchmark tools to see how the system is going to behave when you introduce load and those kind of things, right? And then tuning, how do you tune each of these things with whatever different type of tool. So there's a tremendous amount of information that this guy has on his page from years and years of doing it. He's always the person I point people to. He does have some books too, and he's also real big on BPF and eBPF type tools. So he's a good dude to go look into. His name is Brendan Gregg. Anyway, so then when you're looking at how you do administrative stuff, this is something that we talk about. Use the utilization, saturation, and errors method, where we look for how utilized one of those big four services are, see if it's saturated, meaning that there's a queue time, there's a wait for the resource, and then what type of errors are coming from that. So that's what the use methodology is. It's very useful for administrators. You're just keeping servers up and running, and you're looking at stuff like that. I have a whole talk on this in Linux admin. Office, I haven't done these ones yet. And then online, if you need questions, just ask me or whatever, just message me. How's it going, AdDav, over on the YouTube side? Hopefully this stuff's useful to you. I'm probably getting off of here soon. It's 9 o'clock, and I'll probably go chill out a little bit. It got to 80, what did it do? I think it got to 84 today in Phoenix, that's Fahrenheit. That's quite warm for being winter time. My wife is in Pennsylvania right now. She went to see Puxatawny Phil, if you guys know who that is. So she She is coming back tomorrow, so she went to go do that with one of her girlfriends. Who they just, if you guys don't know what the Groundhog Day thing is, go look that up. But that's a thing that she thinks is kind of fun, and her friend wanted to go do it, so they went out there for it. They were in 0-degree weather this morning, so she actually made it on a news site today, but she's all bundled up. You can only see her eyes. It's kind of funny. She's got like a thing over her face, and she's got her hoodie down and stuff. And yeah, 0 degree. I couldn't imagine being in a 0 degree. Werewolf Weekend Intensive. No, we're probably gonna do Adav. We're gonna do the next few weekends. Just so everybody knows, we're gonna do the next few weekends of finishing up. We're gonna finish up all of the automation course stuff, right? So we'll get this all done. Get the course finished out. I'll get all the material to the guys that have been putting the book together, and then the automation course will be all done. And I'll probably give a few extra weeks for people to finish it, just because it's kind of been coming out in clumps, as it were. I only have up through unit 11 recorded, I think, right? No, maybe I have 11, 12, and 13 to record, so something like that. So we have a bunch to record still, so I'll be doing those. And then, yeah, so that'll be the next few weeks, and then we're going to start the Linux admin course. So I'm probably going to say at the end of February, yeah, Dev, I'm probably going to do like a weekend. I have 2 weekend intensives I want to do. One will be Bacula. I want to, well, it won't be Bacula. Bacula will be the tool we're using. The intensive I want to do is going to be on disaster recovery and business continuity, and I'm going to do it like a whole. It's going to be very technical, right? It'll be all the Linux stuff, but it's going to be. I'm trying to think of. It's going to be the whole thing, though. So what do I mean by that? It's like it's going to be the business side of things. It's going to be the impact analysis. You're going to see what the business is going to be driving towards it, so you learn the terminology. But then you're also still going to do kind of the 3 ways that we back things up, like the 3 levels of backup that we do. And there's all kinds of backup theory that we'll get into, but we're going to actually do rubber meets the road. We're going to do basic backup scripts. That's the first level. We're going to be a little more robust and do, I forget what the second level is. I got to go look it up because I haven't done it in a while. And then the third level will be full enterprise. We'll do all that and we'll deploy that, and then we'll do it with Ansible as well. So like we'll do like the whole thing. I just don't have time to set that up yet, but I do have that all planned. Like that's all in my head. I just have to have us do it. A lot of this stuff I feel like just doing it and like running it live, kind of like where's it at? Hold on, I got it right here.
We'll do it live. Okay.
Do it live.
No, we'll do it live. Fuck it.
I love that.
Do it live.
Do it live.
Write it and we'll do it live.
Do it live. Anyways, so that's for fishermen. If you're still around, that's the what's it called? That's the stream deck right there. All right. So, and then Jared's going to come talk to us too at the end of the month too. Yeah, fisherman. I just basically set this up with a bunch of sound things. So here's one of my favorite ones. Hold on, I gotta start doing this when people do like their first discussion in the group. You guys hear that? Welcome to the party, pal. All right. If you guys don't know what that is, and then this one.
Get to the chopper.
Get to the chopper. Yeah, all I did was load it up with a bunch of sound effects, Fishman. It's coming through my mic. Yeah, I gotta. Oh, you know what? Hold on. I have the desktop audio down too much. Hold on. Wait, try this. Is this better?
Get to the chopper.
Was that better? Because I had my sound down. Okay.
Welcome to the party, pal.
This one's also good.
You get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir.
And then this one.
I can answer that for money.
I got so many of these stupid ones. I have one that I don't have the sound right on, but it's kind of funny. Hold on, what is this one?
Fly, you fools.
Fly, you fools. And then Gandalf falls. But if you guys know the story, Gandalf's actually a kill stealer. He had them run away so that he could kill steal and get all the experience points. And then what's this one?
War never changes.
It's one of my favorite lines from the 90s. Does anybody here remember the original Fallout game? Not the new one. That was a new one. That was Ron Perlman for sure. But the original one was War never changes. And I heard that as a kid, right? Like I was a kid when Fallout came out. and then I've since gone to war, and it's like it hits different after, for sure. All right. Anyways, guys, there's a lot of stuff going on. We're gonna keep hitting the automation course hard for the next 3 weeks or so until that's all done, and I will be getting you guys the material and that kind of stuff. I know the guys have been working on it. Like I know the book. If we go over here, the book has been really the guys have really been working on that a lot. So you guys have the book. It's all linked up there, but it should have. Let's see. Table of contents. I think they have all the way up through. They have a lot of this done. A lot of this is all built. If I'm on an old version of this. Here it is. Here it is. Yeah, they got down through 10 done, and I got to get them all the other ones and stuff. But the course has, you can go and you can work through the intro, and then any of these things where you're learning about them. Then there's the worksheet, and they've been tying in the recording on the topics that we were doing, and then all the work that you're doing. So there's a lot of work in these courses for people. So it's not just like rubber stamp getting a certificate from us or whatever. There's a significant challenge, I think. Okay. But I need to get out of here. I think I'm gonna go hang out somewhere cooler in my house. Downstairs is probably 10 degrees cooler than up here. So oh, I haven't done this today. There it is. That's what everybody else is dealing with right now. It was 84 in Phoenix though. So look at that guy. Probably have some hot coffee sitting on the thing by you. Fisherman, have you seen this one yet? I just did this to be silly. That right there. This is my this is my I'm outside in the cold. This is one that I just put together the other day. I was like, this one's kind of funny. I need to make the fire crackle. I need to make that little thing's working up there, but I think it's sitting 15 minutes. Like that thing should be drawing up in the corner. But even if I turn that one off, it's like he's just looking at fish up on the screen. That's kind of funny. All right, I'll get out of here. We will talk later, guys. I'm gonna start being on every night, just to kind of work on stuff. Yeah, that thing's sitting there. It's not really drawing right now though. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys later. Take care. That would be funny. I should have the sound of when I was screaming when my wife startled me the one time. That would be a funny one. I know I have that clip somewhere.